Sacred name is Naisut Re Ma'at Amun, and what we're teaching is called our Sabean Book Club. Previously, you might have known it as Nuwapic Book Club or Holy Tabernacle Ministries Book Club, but today it's known as the Sabean Book Club. And what we teach is facts, things that could be researched, verified, or reasoned out versus hope, faith, and belief. We want to move away from the hope, faith, and belief of religion, things that cannot be proven, into the world of truth, fact, and substantiality, things that could be proven by evidence, experience, or even reason. So that is the basis of what we teach. The format is for a person to read from a particular scroll. Currently, we're reading the Mind scroll. We'll read from that particular scroll, give an assessment of what you think those verses are talking about, and then we discuss the meaning of those verses. The process is lengthy, even though we might read a few verses. There's a lot of commentary that surrounds the interpretation of those particular verses. But the crux or the main purpose is to take good people and make them better. And we're starting first by reattuning the mind.
How many scrolls are in existence, and where did they come from?
Wow. The number of scrolls, wow, that's I'm sure it's into the thousands. The last count, this was in the early 2000s, it was at 700. But since then, a plethora of new scrolls have come out, so I know we're into the thousands, but I don't know how many. And I always say that the author, who was known as Dr. Malachi Ziyor, today known as Panabab Yananan, or Panabab Yanun, has written more books than anyone in history that I know of, but yet is not yet in the Guinness Book of World Records. And his books cover every subject, whether it's religion, Egyptology, Sumerian history, science, mathematics, astronomy, astrology, any topic that you bring to the table, he's covered.
What information or knowledge are you studying that is not currently available in academia?
I would what's not currently available is I would say extraterrestrial doctrine is not in current academia. For instance, Panabab Yanun speaks about Nibiru, speaks about a crystal city, speaks about a sham. I gave three words. What do each of those mean? Crystal city is a type of UFO that is made of crystals. And then there's something we call a sham. It looks like a crown. It too is a UFO. And then we spoke about Nibiru. Nibiru is a planet-sized ship that traverses the sky. So Nibiru is a planet-sized ship that traverses the skies, about the size of Jupiter. So these type of topics of how Nibiru came into our solar system, caused a crash, tilted the Earth. Because of this crash, the effects was moving Earth from a 90-degree axis to a 23.5-degree axis, and how that shifted the physiology of the beings on this planet, which is why our organs are no longer aligned across our spine, but it'd be either to the left or to the right, which is why some people are right-handed and less people are left-handed when we should be ambidextrous. If the Earth was on its 90-degree axis, but after that things shifted. So it's these type of topics that are not covered in academia about how you are from the planet. The planet is from this particular sun. This sun is also from another sun that exploded, and how that whole chain of life connects you to the universe, and the universe in all, which is all in you. I know in academia they have this creation story of a Big Bang. What Panabab Yanun teaches is that there were successive Big Bangs, not just one Big Bang, that led to this that we see now. And everything has a parental lineage. Just as I come from my mother, my father, they come from their mother, their father. So too, as I just explained, humans come from the water, which is why we're more water than land, but we also come from the land. And this mass that we call Earth comes from its sun, and that sun comes from another sun that exploded, and then that sun comes from its parent. So there's always a chain of life that connects you here to the universe out there, to it all.
If there's a parental lineage, where did it all begin?
Where did it all begin? It all began in all, meaning that it was always here. And time started when material began, when it moved from ether and became hydrogen, that one atom with that one electron circling. From the moment it became something of weight, something, meaning H1, is when that time began. But existence was always here.
What does your study have just to say that is in line with current academia?
What do you mean?
What do you agree with from current academia?
Current academia, I agree with quantum mechanics or quantum physics. It's now morphing from the physical physics into quantum mechanics, and in that quantum world more relates to what we are describing, how everything is connected, how everything is in all. You can't add to all, you can't take away from all. It was always already here. And now quantum physics and quantum mechanics are beginning to prove what was once a theory, that everything is connected, that it is all here, it has already all been here. It's all in all.
What is time?
Time is a unit of measure that is related to things. Time without space and material, you have no time. You need material and you need space, and that's when time begins. All three of those are dependent upon each other. So time is that measurement of the material within that space.
Is it possible for material to not move?
To not move? No, it is not possible for material to not move if we're talking about movement as vibration. Everything vibrates. Nothing in existence rests. It might appear not to move, but atoms are constantly in a state of fluctuation and movement. There is nothing in the material world that is at rest. Movement is always occurring.
Velocity. Is it possible to have zero velocity?
That I don't know.
Okay. So can you give a brief synopsis of your journey to lead you to where you are?
Yeah. So originally I was a Christian Baptist, and then within that Christian sect, I went from Baptist, African Methodist Episcopal, African Methodist Episcopal Zion. I think those were the three. And then after that, I got affiliated with the Nation of Islam under Farrakhan. And from Farrakhan, I found out about Malcolm X. And from Malcolm X, I found out about Elijah Muhammad. Of the three, I prefer Elijah Muhammad. And then when I was in the military, I was over in Turkey, and that's when I became a Sunni Orthodox Muslim. And while I was a Sunni Orthodox Muslim, I made my Hajj to Mecca, I made my Umrah to Medina. And then when I came back to the United States is when a friend of mine, Carrie Griffo, also known as Kedar or Tahuti, who just recently transitioned, our paths are very similar. So when he came back to the United States, he too was a Sunni Orthodox Muslim with me over in Turkey. When he came back to the United States, I think the following year I came back, and then he sent me a scroll. The scroll was called Mythology or Myth Theology. And he sent me this scroll written by a Dr. Malachi Z. York. And he said, here, take a look at this. I want you to read it and tell me what you think of it. When I came back, I was in North Dakota, and he was down in Mississippi. So when I received the scroll, I sat at work. I was supposed to be doing work, but I read that scroll. And I couldn't put it down. And after I finished reading Mythology, I called Griff back, and I was like, who wrote this scroll? And he told me it was a person by the name of Dr. Malachi Z. York, who was over in Georgia. And I said, whoever wrote this scroll, I said, this is it. This is where we need to be. Because it answered so many of the questions that I had. One fundamental question that I've always had was the Cain and Abel story. The story goes that Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel, so there's Adam, Eve, and Cain. Then Cain, in his conversation with God, Cain is banished to the land of Nod, and then Cain says to God, if he goes to Nod, that they're going to kill him. So my question had always been, who set up this land of Nod? Who were these people in this land of Nod? And if Cain went to the land of Nod, why did Cain think that they were going to kill him? So he had to have some sort of knowledge about these people in Nod. And then it later says that Cain took a wife and started having children. Where did this woman come from? Because it never says that Adam and Eve gave birth to a female that Cain then took as his wife. And so the scroll Mythology answered those questions and more.
I mean, if Cain killed Abel and Adam and Eve had two sons, because they mention the sons, they don't mention the ladies,
Mm-hmm.
then those two sons would be the only two men on earth. So,
And in addition to Adam.
yes, so where would other people be? And if other people exist that were not a part of eating the fruit, then they would not have the original sin. And the whole mythology would fall apart based off that.
Well, the thing is, the story never mentions the other people. They just appear. It talks about Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and then mysteriously we talk about people in this land of Nod, but it never tells you.
No, but God confirmed that those people exist. So if you confirm that those people exist and they did not eat of the fruit of that tree, then at that point, those people would not have the sin. They would have not sinned.
Right.
And if they exist and they reproduce, that would mean there would be a lot of people on the planet that did not sin.
It means there were other people on the planet that predate Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
So Adam cannot be said to be the first male, and Eve cannot be said to be the first female. Now, what Dr. York explained is that name Nod comes from Nud, because it was a being by the name of Enki, whose other name is Nudimud, or Ea. He is one of the Anunnaki, and it was he who set up that city named it after himself, the city of Nod. And in that city, it was a host of different beings that were there, some agreeable and some disagreeable. As Pandavabi Noon explained, it was like today's Las Vegas, a city of fun and frivolity set up under Enki or Nudimud. And the garden was an experiment. And so in this experiment, they wanted to try to breed a certain type of human being and have only an agreeable trait. But that experiment failed because one of the inputs to the experiment, Abel, was killed. And so it ruined the experiment.
Who set up that experiment?
There was a group of Anunnaki. It wasn't just one person. I have to go back. All right. So when the Anunnaki came here from their home world. They came down from Nibiru and they were in search of gold. They needed gold to take back to their planet to repair its ozone layer. And we wanted to make a type of being that could do the labor because they didn't want to do the labor. And Zachariah Stitchin also has several books out on the Anunnaki and what they were doing. Zachariah Stitchin is also transitioned. But there's several different authors that talk about what the Anunnaki came here for, was to mine gold. And the Anunnaki found the work very laborious and they didn't want to do it. And so the idea was, let's make a type of being that could take orders and do the work so that we don't have to do it. And so in the quest for that, they set up this enclosed garden, which was a laboratory, to try to make this being and then test this being to see if these type of people could follow directions and could do manual labor so that the Anunnaki didn't have to do it.
What's the significance of a pyramid?
The pyramid in Giza is there to balance the earth. There was a cataclysmic accident that tilted the earth off of its 90-degree axis to a 23.5-degree axis, and it had an extra wobble. So if the earth wasn't stabilized, it would go into the sun, and because of its pull on the succeeding planet, it would pull it into a sun, and so all the planets would be pulled into the sun. So the Great Pyramid of Giza is where it is because it stabilizes the wobble of the earth. Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's more like an oval egg, and at the waist of the earth, it bulges out. It fluctuates depending on the pull of the sun and its rotation. So it wobbles. They have found that the Pyramid of Giza, if you were to take all the land mass of planet Earth and lay it out like a flat pancake, the Pyramid of Giza is in its exact center, which tells modern day scientists that the people back who built the pyramid had to have some knowledge of not only geometry but advanced mathematics and architecture to be able to put the pyramid in the exact center of the landmass of the earth that stabilizes the wobble of the earth. That was one of the reasons for the pyramid. There's other reasons in dealing with ascension to other words. It was also used as a portal or a gateway.
A gateway or portal to where?
Sirius and Orion.
Transporting whom?
People. There was a time, how to explain it? Present world is broken up or divided into 24,000 year cycles. You have a 24,000 year cycle of time broken up into 6,000 year periods. There's a 6,000 year golden sun, 6,000 year silver moon, followed by 6,000 year golden sun, and a 6,000 year golden moon. That's one cycle of time, and then the new 24,000 year clock starts again. I forgot the question. I'll make sure I answer it.
I was asking transporting whom?
Oh, gotcha. Transportation. All right. So in the previous cycles of time, there were portals here that beings could go from here and straight into Sirius, or from here or straight into a planet in Orion. Just like you would get in your car and drive from here to wherever you're going. That was in those previous cycles of time. Then everything gets destroyed. It's a creation, destruction period. Then everything gets destroyed, and that time clock starts again. And so now the time of being able to go from the Milky Way into Sirius, or the Milky Way into Orion, those portals are, they're not removed. Hidden is more of a better word, because they're not open to this, or I should say the previous 24,000 year cycle of time.
Who built the pyramids?
The Afaf Reye Ka'u, or Africans. It was Africans during those previous cycles of time that built the pyramids for those purposes.
Before the pyramids were built, uh, what of the earth and its wobble?
Before the earth was built, they noticed that wobble. When I say the they, it was the they who caused the accident. And that was the Anunnaki who caused the accident, and they then had to have a tetrahedron pyramid stabilize the wobble until the pyramid construction could be built. And even now, those ships, without my chalkboard, there's the earth, and then there are ships in 3 places around the earth directing energies to the earth to maintain it in its current state in wobble. Because right now, after that accident, it isn't a natural earth but an artificial earth, in that they had to take certain modifications to the earth to keep it in its present place: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, asteroid belt, Jupiter, to keep it in its current place and stabilize the wobble.
You're saying that it got an accident
Oh yeah, it was an accident.
with
The Anunnaki.
with
Nibiru.
Nibiru.
Yes.
What stopped such a large craft from having gravity to create a moon out of the Earth?
So Nibiru is a planet-sized ship, like the size of Jupiter. And when it was going through the universe in its search for gold, it came in to the Milky Way. And when it came into the Milky Way, I think it first hit Neptune or Uranus. I have to double check. But then it was wobbling through our particular solar system, trying to stabilize. It ended up smashing into another planet, which is why you see that asteroid belt going the opposite direction of the planets in our solar system, because it was something that came from the opposite side that smashed into something to send this asteroid belt going the other way around our sun. And it was that Nibiru that smashed that planet. There it was: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Meldek, then Jupiter. But now Meldek is no longer there. And you got this asteroid belt going the opposite direction because that planet was smashed. Those beings, to make a long story short, Panabab Yanun and Zachariah Stitchin both teach that those beings had a disagreement with the Anunnaki about where they would reside next. Since their planet was destroyed, they wanted Earth. The Anunnaki refused to give them Earth. So before that disagreement came about, these ships tried to attack Nibiru, and Nibiru caught them in the force field, and so they were just revolving in a force field around Nibiru. And it was one of these ships that hit into the Earth, smashed it into two pieces, and another ship came around and smashed a hole through one of those pieces. And then they had to repair the Earth, and one of those pieces that went off from the Earth is what you call today's moon. Interestingly, in the early 1980s, I think it was, people were saying that the moon was a foreign object that came and got caught in Earth's gravity. And then later, I think it was Scientific American that reported that it was discovered that the moon actually broke off from the Earth. And I say interestingly because Elijah Muhammad taught back in the 60s and early 70s, before his transition, that the Earth and moon were once a part of each other, and that the moon broke off from the Earth. When Elijah Muhammad said that, then they said he was crazy, because they were under the theory that the moon was a foreign object that came into Earth's atmosphere, Earth's gravity, and got pulled into its orbit. But now they all confirm that the Earth and moon were once one, and the moon broke off from the Earth, confirming what Elijah Muhammad taught back in the 1960s.
What about Venus?
What about Venus?
Was it capable of preserving life back then?
Yeah, so Venus does have life today, not the human life as we know it. And in one of Dr. York's scrolls, I used the term Dr. York because that was the pen name he used for that particular book, called two books, if I'm not mistaken, Mission Earth scroll and Man from Planet Riz scroll. And he talks about the beings from Venus who came to Earth to warn the president, I forgot which presidents, not to trust certain other beings, mainly the Pleiadians and the Aldebaran, because the Pleiadians and the Aldebaran are the blonde hair beings that Hitler often speaks about. They met with, I forgot which U.S. president, about laying down America's weapons in exchange for technology. And then another group of extraterrestrials came from Venus. Valthor was the leader, and he came with three others. I forgot their names, and they were telling the American government to not to make deals with the Aldebaran or even the Pleiadians because they would deceive them. But that's what he speaks about, the beings from Venus.
So the American government will be aware of all of this?
Oh yeah, the American government is aware of this, but not every president is aware of this. The American government is decentralized. So this type of information is in one department that is separate from the president. Even when Jimmy Carter tried to get access to the bunkers that supposedly held these UFOs, he was denied access because he didn't have the need to know, nor did he have the clearance to know. And he was the president of the United States.
What of other nations?
What of?
Other nations? Why contact the United States? And
No, this is also going on in other nations, which started with Germany. And then after the war, and even at the latter part of those wars, the United States was bringing in those German scientists to work on those same projects for the United States. But these extraterrestrials have agreements with various countries. But all of this comes to the Bilderberg Group, which is like the top of the pyramid that governs all of these countries, whether it's the United States, whether it's Russia, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Saudi Arabia. All of these have their particular leaders that roll all up into the Bilderberg Group that sits at the pinnacle of the pyramid.
all right. I guess this is good for one session.
Okay.
We're gonna have to continue another time, and we get some more questions in.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Can you say any last thing you want to say?
No, I think this was great. I thank you for doing this. I'm interested to see the output.